trainer had to push my hips out wide, and he noticed something my husband hadn't in years. Hello, Reddit. First time posting here, and I'm using a throwaway account for this because, well, this isn't the kind of thing I want people in my real life stumbling upon. I've never really been one for Reddit, so I hope I'm doing this right. My name is Lauren, not my real name, of course, and I'm 35 years old. I've been married to my husband, Jack, also a fake name, for about 12 years now, and we've been together since college. We have 2 amazing kids, our 10-year-old daughter and 8-year-old son, who are, without a doubt, the light of our lives. Jack is 35 as well, and if there's one thing I can say about him, it's that he's an amazing man. Seriously, he's the kind of husband and father that people envy. He's dependable, kind, and patient, more than I could ever ask for. He's the parent our kids are closer to, and I'm okay with that because of how much of an amazing dad he is. In a lot of ways, I've always been proud of what we've built together, both in our marriage and in raising our children. We're both career-driven people, but Jack is definitely more focused on his work than I am. His job means the world to him, and he's always been incredibly passionate about it. Life's been pretty good for the most part, but in recent years something changed. Jack's dedication to his career has meant longer hours, more time at the office, and less time for us. At first, I didn't mind. I get it. He's working hard for our family. But somewhere along the way, I started feeling more like a second priority in our marriage. It's not that he doesn't love me. I know he does. But the excitement, the closeness we once had, started to fade. I guess when you've been with someone for so long, the spark kind of fizzles out. It's not like anyone really warns you about that when you first get together with someone, right? You start off full of excitement and passion, and then, over time, things just settle into a routine. You get comfortable, predictable, and to be honest, a bit boring. That's what happened between Jack and me. At the beginning, Jack was everything. He was the guy who would whisk me away for surprise weekends, plan spontaneous road trips, and go out of his way to make me feel loved. He had this energy, this sense of adventure that made life with him thrilling. I loved that about him. But after a while, especially after we had our kids, something changed. Jack, the romantic and adventurous guy I had fallen in love with, became more careful, more cautious. And the worst part, he became consumed with his career. Now don't get me wrong, I'm career-driven too. I've always supported his ambition, and I understand that he's doing it for us, for the family, but it felt like Jack became all about the job. It wasn't a gradual shift either. One minute he was the guy who made time for me, who balanced his work and personal life, and the next, his job had taken over everything. I'll give him credit where it's due. He excelled at it. He climbed the corporate ladder fast and was soon in a very high position with an impressive salary. Because of him, we were able to provide a great life for our kids. We could afford the nice cars, the beautiful house, and the vacations people dream about. But with that success came a distance. I felt like I was losing him, bit by bit, to his career. We weren't connecting like we used to, and our relationship started to feel like more of a partnership in running a household than a marriage. Everything became so transactional. We discussed schedules, logistics, and what the kids needed, but there was no spark, no romance, no us. It was all about getting through the day-to-day, and it felt like I was just going through the motions. I didn't want to admit it at first. It felt too cliché, the whole husband too busy for his wife storyline. But as time went on, I couldn't deny it anymore. Jack was always working, always distracted, and even when he was home, he wasn't really present. It was like living with a ghost, someone who was physically there but emotionally checked out. And I'll be honest, it hurt. There were nights when I'd lie awake, staring blankly, wondering where the man I married had gone, wondering if I had done something wrong, or if this was just what happens when you grow up and start raising kids. Maybe this is what marriage was supposed to be, comfortable, safe, but ultimately a little empty. I felt guilty, like really guilty. I couldn't entirely blame Jack for how distant things had become between us. He was doing everything he was doing for us, for our family. The long hours, the intense focus on his career. It was all so that our kids could have the life we never had growing up. He was providing everything, and I knew it. But still, that didn't take away the fact that I was lonely. There was this deep sense of isolation that settled over me, like I was just coasting through life, going through the motions without feeling truly connected to anything anymore. That's when I started thinking about myself, about what I wanted. It wasn't just about Jack or the kids anymore. It was about me, and that realization hit hard. Somewhere along the way, I had put so much energy into being a mom and making sure things ran smoothly for Jack and the kids that I had forgotten who I used to be. The spontaneous, adventurous woman that Jack had fallen in love with had faded away, and in her place was someone who just made sure everyone else was okay. But what about me? I knew something had to change. About 8 months ago, I decided that I needed to focus on myself again. I didn't want to keep living this half-life, where I was just someone's wife or mother. I wanted to feel alive again, to feel like me again. And one part of that was getting back into shape, not just physically, but mentally too. I knew that taking care of my body would help me feel better, more confident, more like myself. But I also knew that I couldn't do it alone. I had tried working out in the gym we had at home, but the motivation just wasn't there. I'd get distracted or lose interest because, honestly, working out alone at home felt just as lonely as everything else. That's why I decided to sign up for the local gym. I figured being around other people, having a change of environment, would help me stay focused. Plus, I thought having a personal trainer would keep me committed and on track. That's how I met Matt. Matt was a professional through and through. He took his job seriously, and from the first session, I knew I was in good hands. He was helpful, attentive, and never made me feel like I was being judged. In fact, he had a way of making me feel comfortable, even when I was pushing my limits physically. There was something about the way he encouraged me, his positivity, his focus on my progress, that made me want to keep showing up, to keep trying harder. At first, it was strictly professional. He was my trainer, and I was just another client, hoping to get in better shape. But as the weeks went by, something started to shift. It wasn't anything overt. There were no inappropriate comments or anything like that, but there was this connection, a certain chemistry. It was subtle, just small moments during our sessions when we'd lock eyes, or he'd smile at me in a way that felt a little too warm. I tried to shake it off, tried to remind myself that this was all in my head, that I was projecting my loneliness onto someone who was just doing his job. But the more time I spent around Matt, the harder it became to ignore the way I felt. There was something about him, the way he moved, the way he carried himself with this quiet confidence, that was hard to overlook. I told myself it was harmless. I was just appreciating the attention, the feeling of being noticed. After all, Jack barely even looked at me anymore, and here was someone who seemed to care. Matt noticed things, little things, like when I was struggling with a particular exercise or when I was feeling a bit off. He was always right there, ready to adjust my form or encourage me to push through. But despite all my rationalizing, the pull I felt toward Matt kept growing stronger. Every session brought us closer, and I started looking forward to our time together more than I cared to admit. It wasn't just about getting fit anymore. It was about those moments when I felt seen, truly seen in a way that I hadn't felt in years. Jack, as much as I loved him, had drifted away emotionally. Our marriage had become more about logistics and responsibilities than romance or connection, and Matt, with his easy confidence and constant presence, filled a void I hadn't realized was so deep. It was small things at first. His hand brushing against mine as he handed me a towel, a lingering glance after a particularly tough session. I'd catch myself thinking about him at random moments during the day, wondering what he was doing or how he spent his time outside of the gym. I felt guilty about it, but at the same time, I couldn't stop. It was like I was living two different lives, one with Jack and our children, which was filled with routine and obligation, and another with Matt, where I felt alive and wanted again. I knew it wasn't fair to either of them. Jack was working hard, providing for us, and trying to be the best father he could be, and Matt was just doing his job. He never did anything that made me think he saw me as more than a client. Things first started to shift after one particularly tough session, and I had been feeling off all day. I'd been stressing about work, the kids, and the increasing emotional distance between Jack and me. Matt noticed immediately. He always did. He asked if I was okay, his voice full of concern, and before I knew it, I found myself opening up to him. I told him about how distant Jack had become, how I felt like I was losing myself in the chaos of our lives. Matt listened. He didn't offer solutions or try to fix anything. He just listened. And when I finished, he put a hand on my shoulder, just for a moment, and said, "You're doing great, Lauren. Don't forget that." It was such a simple thing to say, but it hit me harder than I expected. I realized how long it had been since someone had acknowledged my efforts and had made me feel like I was more than just a wife, a mother, or someone going through the motions. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly appreciated, and that feeling was intoxicating. After that, I couldn't shake the idea that maybe there was more between Matt and me than just a professional relationship. I knew it was dangerous territory. I was married after all, and Matt was just my trainer, but the way he made me feel was undeniable. I started dressing up a little more for our sessions, paying more attention to how I looked, and Matt seemed to notice. His compliments became more frequent, though always appropriate, and he'd smile at me in a way that sent butterflies through my stomach. I knew I was walking a fine line, but I couldn't stop myself. And there was one day, one session, that changed everything. We were doing a new exercise, something focused on my hips and lower back, and Matt had to help adjust my form. I was lying flat on my back, knees bent, and Matt was guiding me through some stretches. He was explaining the importance of posture and core strength when he realized my form was off. He knelt down, placed his hands gently on my hips, and guided them into a wider stance to help with the stretch. At first, it felt like any other adjustment he had made during our sessions. But then his hands lingered, just for a second longer than usual. I could feel the heat from his palms, and I realized this was different. The space between us seemed to shrink in that moment. This wasn't just a trainer correcting his client's form anymore. There was something else there. Something that both of us had been avoiding until then. He didn't say anything, but I could see it in his eyes, the way they glanced down and stayed there. He noticed something that Jack hadn't in years. There was a connection, a recognition, almost as if he saw me in a way that I hadn't been seen in a long time. I didn't pull away. I should have, but I didn't. Instead, I found myself leaning into the moment. I was feeling this rush of excitement that I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't love, and it wasn't even really attraction, at least not in the conventional sense. It was more like the excitement of being seen, of being wanted again. And I couldn't deny how intoxicating that felt. After that session, things felt different between Matt and me. It wasn't like we crossed any boundaries or did anything outright inappropriate, but the tension was there. It was always in every exchange, every glance. We never talked about it, and I never told anyone, not even my closest friends. We kind of just ignored it for a while, until we couldn't anymore. It was like a switch had flipped between Matt and me. Our relationship shifted in a way that was subtle at first, but it didn't take long before it became something I couldn't ignore. We started spending more time together, and not just at the gym. At first it was small things, like staying after my session was over to chat about life, or grabbing a coffee together after a particularly grueling workout. It felt harmless, just two people talking, but deep down, I knew what was happening. Our convos got longer and more personal. I found myself sharing things with Matt that I hadn't even told Jack. My insecurities, my frustrations, my dreams. It was so easy to talk to him. He made me feel heard, understood, and most importantly, appreciated. Matt, in turn, shared bits and pieces of his life with me. He wasn't married, didn't have kids, had a girlfriend, and he had his own struggles, his own things that he was working through. Soon, our casual chats at the gym turned into plans to meet up outside of our sessions. We'd grab lunch together, sometimes dinner, and spend hours talking. It wasn't anything romantic at first, at least that's what I kept telling myself. We were just two people who enjoyed each other's company. But the more time we spent together, the more difficult it became to ignore the underlying tension between us. We still refused to acknowledge it, though, and just continued meeting outside of the gym more often. Lunch turned into drinks after work, and soon we were hanging out in ways that felt more intimate. We'd meet at a park to talk, go for walks around the city, and it all started feeling less like a trainer-client relationship and more like something else. We weren't just hanging out. We were spending time together, seeking each other out. Weeks went by, and it started becoming clear that something was going to give. I couldn't keep pretending that what was happening with Matt was innocent. It wasn't. It was emotional, and it was heading toward something more. I knew I had to make a choice, but the pull I felt toward Matt was stronger than I had anticipated. And the more time I spent with him, the more that choice felt impossible to make. Well, things finally blew up, and I ended up cheating on my husband. It wasn't like I planned for it to happen, at least not consciously, but the thing between Matt and me had been building for months. I don't even know exactly when that line got crossed, but when it did, everything just changed. One moment we were just two people with a connection, and the next we were in this situation that I couldn't, or maybe didn't want to control. It happened after one of our evening sessions. I had been pushing myself harder than usual. I was trying to shake off the stupid feeling of guilt and also desire for Matt that had really been bothering me. After we had finished our session, I sat down on one of the benches. I was exhausted both physically and emotionally. Matt came over to check on me as he always did, but this time it felt kind of different. There was such a softness in the way he spoke, a gentleness in his touch as he placed his hand on my back, and before I knew it, we were staring at each other. I don't know who made the first move, but the next thing I knew, who we are full on making out. It was as if something inside of me had snapped. There was no hesitation, no second guessing. It felt so natural, like it was inevitable, like we had both been waiting for this moment for so long. And the thing is, I didn't even feel guilty. Not in that moment, not afterward. I thought I would. I thought I would feel this crushing wave of regret and shame, but instead I felt fulfilled like I hadn't in years. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt noticed, desired, alive. Matt's attention, his touch. It was something I had been missing for so long that I didn't even realize how much I needed it until it was right there in front of me. It wasn't long before that one kiss turned into something more. Matt and I started seeing each other outside of the gym even more frequently, but this time he wasn't just for coffee or a chat. We started meeting in more secluded places where we could be alone, and before I knew it, we were having a full-blown affair. The first time it happened, I thought I would feel sick with guilt afterwards, but I didn't. I didn't feel guilty at all. Instead, I felt liberated. It was like I had found a part of myself that had been locked away or lost a long time ago. I felt like I couldn't get enough of that feeling. I wanted more. I wanted to feel like that all the time. I knew it was wrong. I knew that what I was doing was a betrayal of Jack, of our vows, of our marriage, of everything we had built together, but I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. The truth was I was addicted to the way Matt touched me, looked at me, and made me feel like I was the only person in the world that mattered. And that was how my affair with Matt started. I realize this post is getting long, and I apologize if I'm rambling. I guess I just needed to get everything out. But yeah, that's how the affair began. And to be honest, it was perfect. For a while. It was like living two different lives. With Matt, I felt alive and seen. I had passion, excitement, and this spark I hadn't felt in years. And then there was Jack, my steady, reliable husband who'd been in the background. But of course, life doesn't let you live in a fantasy for long. Jack started to notice. I guess the distance between us became too much, even for him. He must have taken some time to reflect because all of a sudden, he began making changes. He started coming home earlier, spending more time with me instead of the kids. It wasn't just the usual dad stuff anymore. He was trying to be a husband again. He cut back his hours at work, rearranged his schedule to be with us more. And the weird thing? Instead of feeling grateful, I resented him for it. This was what I had wanted for so long. Him being present, putting me first, being a partner again. But now, after all this time, it just felt too late. The person I had needed him to be for years was finally showing up, but I was already getting that from Matt. I was already in too deep, too far gone to appreciate it. It felt like Jack was ruining the balance I'd built and forcing me to confront the fact that my double life couldn't last forever. Every time Jack made an effort, it only made me more frustrated. Here he was, finally doing all the things I had begged for, romantic gestures, more time together, actual conversations about us, and all I could think was, why now? Why did it take me stepping out of our marriage for him to realize what was missing? Why did I have to find someone else for him to finally step up? I didn't feel guilt, not at first. What I felt was anger and resentment. Jack was trying now, but I had already moved on emotionally. And I wasn't ready to give up what I had with Matt, not for a version of Jack that should have existed years ago. I refused to make things easy for Jack. Every time he tried to be close to me, I shut him down. He'd suggest date nights or offer to spend time together, but I'd turn him away every single time. It was like I'd built this wall, and no matter what he did, I wouldn't let him in. I guess part of me wanted him to understand that it was too late, that I wasn't interested in fixing what we had anymore. Slowly but surely, he began to realize that I was no longer invested in us. Then, about a week ago, everything came crashing down. It was just a regular day, or at least it seemed like it would be. The kids were on holiday with Jack's parents, and I had the house to myself. Jack had left for work, or so I thought, so I figured I'd take the opportunity to see Matt. It was an off day for me. No responsibilities, no distractions, just a chance to do whatever I wanted. I spent the day with Matt, like usual. Everything felt normal until I got home. I pulled into the driveway and my heart dropped. My things were on the porch. Not all of them, just the basics. Clothes, shoes, and a few random items. My jewelry and other valuable things were still inside, but it was clear what this meant. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely shocked. It didn't make sense. What the hell were my things doing outside? I called Jack over and over again, but he wasn't answering. Panic started to settle in. My mind raced with possibilities, but I knew, deep down, I knew exactly what was happening. Jack had found out. When he finally picked up, his voice was calm, too calm. He told me that he knew everything. He'd known about Matt, about the affair, about all of it. He said he didn't want me in the house anymore. He told me to go stay with my affair partner. Hearing those words felt like a punch to the gut. I lost it. I screamed at him over the phone, furious that he had thrown me out like this without even confronting me first. How could he just throw my things outside without saying anything? How could he act like this? We argued for what felt like hours, me accusing him of being a coward for not addressing it sooner, for making this mess instead of talking to me. But he wouldn't engage. He hung up the phone and left me standing outside staring at my things on the porch. I waited there for hours, hoping he'd come home so we could talk face to face. I kept thinking he'd show up, that we could at least have a conversation about everything, but he never did. Eventually, I had no choice. I loaded my stuff into my car and drove to my parents' house. I've been staying there for the past week, and I still don't know what I'm going to tell the kids when they get back from vacation. I've been trying to contact Jack ever since, but he's been ignoring me. I've sent him messages, tried calling, but there's been nothing from him. I just want to talk, to explain, to apologize. I'm so sorry for everything. I'm sorry I let it get this far, that I hurt him like this. I haven't been to the gym since that day, and I haven't spoken to Matt either. I'm too confused, too overwhelmed by everything that's happened. I don't know what to do. I want to fix things with Jack, but I don't even know where to start. How do you come back from something like this? How do I explain this to my kids? I'm lost, and I don't know what the next step is. I don't know how to make this right. Update. Hey, Reddit. So I absolutely got flamed for my last post. A lot of people pointed out that I was obviously in need of a serious reality check, and, well, I guess I got one. Thanks for that. I expected the backlash, and I know I deserved it. I accept full responsibility. There's no denying it. Nothing justifies cheating. It's something I should have never done, and looking back, I realize that I could have and should have talked to Jack instead. We could have worked through our problems, or at the very least, addressed the issues before it got this far. But I didn't, and here we are. Also, just to clear things up, for those accusing me of fabricating this whole story for attention, no. I honestly have way better things to do than coming on here to write up fake drama. This is my life, my reality, as embarrassing and painful as it is. I came here hoping for some actual advice and not just to get dragged. I get that I messed up, but if anyone has some useful advice that I can actually apply, please help. Is there any way I can get custody if we end up divorcing? Is there any way I can salvage anything from this? Maybe get some father support or something? So, first off, like I mentioned in my last post, I've been staying at my parents' house. It's been weird. When everything first blew up, Jack took the kids with him on their vacation, and I've been here ever since. It was fine for a while because the kids were away, but the longer they stayed with Jack's parents, the more I realized that we couldn't keep avoiding this forever. Eventually, Jack would have to talk to me before they came back, and we'd have to sort things out. Well, that moment came sooner than I expected. When the kids were due to come back from vacation, Jack finally came over to my parents' house. It was tense, as you can imagine. We had a long conversation, and to be honest, I think we both knew what was coming. The short version is this: he wants a divorce, and he doesn't see himself forgiving me. I get it. I don't blame him, not at all. The reality is that I did this to myself, and now I have to deal with the consequences. Jack was calm during the conversation, which almost made it worse. He wasn't angry, wasn't yelling, just done. He told me he'd already started talking to a lawyer, and while he wasn't going to try to take the kids away from me entirely, he wanted to keep them as much as possible. He mentioned joint custody, but he made it clear that he didn't want me back in the house. He's ready to move on, and I'm still here, feeling like I'm stuck in quicksand. I don't want to make things harder for Jack. He's a great father, and despite everything, I still care about him. I guess I just didn't realize how badly I'd hurt him until I saw how emotionally detached he's become. It's like I'm looking at a stranger now. So, yeah, it looks like we're getting a divorce. I'm still at my parents' house, and I feel numb. That's the best way to describe it. I don't think I've fully processed everything yet. I should be devastated, but I'm not. I'm just in this weird limbo where nothing feels real, and everything feels like it's happening to someone else. I don't know what comes next. I know I need to start figuring out what's going to happen with the kids and how we're going to make this work for them. But for now, I just feel empty. I'm not looking for sympathy. I know I don't deserve it. I just need to figure out how to move forward from here. What do I tell the kids when they come back? How do I make sure they aren't caught in the middle of all this? And most of all, how do I even begin to fix the mess I've made? Any advice on what to do next? I'd appreciate it. Update. Hey Reddit. So I absolutely got flamed for my last post. A lot of people pointed out that I was obviously in need of a serious reality check. And, well, I guess I got one. Thanks for that. I expected the backlash, and I know I deserved it. I accept full responsibility. There's no denying it. Nothing justifies cheating. It's something I should have never done. And looking back, I realized that I could have, and should have, talked to Jack instead. We could have worked through our problems, or at the very least addressed the issues before it got this far. But I didn't, and here we are. Also, just to clear things up, for those accusing me of fabricating this whole story for attention, no, I honestly have way better things to do than coming on here to write up fake drama. This is my life, my reality, as embarrassing and painful as it is. I came here hoping for some actual advice, and not just to get dragged. I get that I messed up, but if anyone has some useful advice that I can actually apply, please help. Is there any way I can get custody if we end up divorcing? Is there any way I can salvage anything from this? Maybe get some father support or something? So first off, like I mentioned in my last post, I've been staying at my parents' house. It's been weird. When everything first blew up, Jack took the kids with him on their vacation, and I've been here ever since. It was fine for a while because the kids were away, but the longer they stayed with Jack's parents, the more I realized that we couldn't keep avoiding this forever. Eventually, Jack would have to talk to me before they came back, and we'd have to sort things out. Well, that moment came sooner than I expected. When the kids were due to come back from vacation, Jack finally came over to my parents' house. It was tense, as you can imagine. We had a long conversation, and to be honest, I think we both knew what was coming. The short version is this: he wants a divorce, and he doesn't see himself forgiving me. I get it. I don't blame him, not at all. The reality is that I did this to myself, and now I have to deal with the consequences. Jack was calm during the conversation, which almost made it worse. He wasn't angry, wasn't yelling, just done. He told me he'd already started talking to a lawyer, and while he wasn't going to try to take the kids away from me entirely, he wanted to keep them as much as possible. He mentioned joint custody, but he made it clear that he didn't want me back in the house. He's ready to move on, and I'm still here, feeling like I'm stuck in quicksand. I don't want to make things harder for Jack. He's a great father, and despite everything, I still care about him. I guess I just didn't realize how badly I'd hurt him until I saw how emotionally detached he's become. It's like I'm looking at a stranger now. So yeah, it looks like we're getting a divorce. I'm still at my parents' house, and I feel numb. That's the best way to describe it. I don't think I've fully processed everything yet. I should be devastated, but I'm not. I'm just in this weird limbo where nothing feels real and everything feels like it's happening to someone else. I don't know what comes next. I know I need to start figuring out what's going to happen with the kids and how we're going to make this work for them. But for now, I just feel empty. I'm not looking for sympathy. I know I don't deserve it. I just need to figure out how to move forward from here. What do I tell the kids when they come back? How do I make sure they aren't caught in the middle of all this? And most of all, how do I even begin to fix the mess I've made? Any advice on what to do next? I'd appreciate it. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been a while since I last updated, and that's because, well, I've been really busy wallowing in my guilt and shame. A lot has happened, and honestly, I don't even know where to start. First off, I feel like one of the hardest things I've had to face was realizing how much of a lie my relationship with Matt was. I thought I meant something to him. I thought we had a connection, that he liked me, that those moments we shared were real, but it turns out it was all a fucking lie, every bit of it. I hadn't reached out to Matt in a while because I was so caught up in the chaos with Jack, and to be fair, he hadn't reached out to me either. It was like he didn't care at all, like I didn't even exist to him anymore. After everything, I decided to text him, just to see what was going on, and we ended up having the most infuriating conversation. To sum it up, he said he wasn't serious about me, that everything was just a game to him. He said he never thought it was anything more than some casual fling, and then had the audacity to ask, "What did you expect? Love?" He reminded me that he had a girlfriend, and that he told me that from the beginning, and he even threw it in my face that I was married too. He said he thought we were just playing, just role-playing, as if my entire life, my feelings, were just some joke to him. So, all those tender moments, all those times I thought he understood me and made me feel seen, they were a fucking lie. I was heartbroken. I still am, to be honest. I thought I was worth more than just some fling to him, but clearly I was wrong. And now, part of me really wants to tell his girlfriend about his cheating ass. Is that too far? Should I just leave it alone? I blocked him after the call, but I know I could probably still find and message her on Facebook if I wanted to. I haven't decided yet. On top of that, I canceled my gym membership. There's no way I'm ever going back there. I couldn't bear the sight of him again. Just the thought of stepping into that gym makes me feel physically sick. And then, the kids came back from their holiday. They were so confused, and my heart just shattered seeing them like that. Thankfully, Jack explained everything to them in a way they could understand, and he handled it so much better than I could have. But now I barely see them. The visits just aren't enough. I miss them so much. I miss our life together, the family we were. Every time I think about how I threw all of that away for someone who didn't give a shit about me, I just want to scream. And as if things couldn't get worse, I got served divorce papers. No amount of begging has gotten through to Jack. I've tried over and over to talk to him, to make him see that I'm sorry, that I regret everything, but he's made up his mind. He wants a divorce, and there's nothing I can do to change that. These past few weeks have been absolute hell. I broke down. I couldn't even go to work for days. I was completely falling apart, but I forced myself to go back in because I can't lose my job. If I lose my job, I'll have nothing left. Everything feels like it's crumbling, and I'm standing in the middle of the wreckage, watching it all burn. I don't even recognize my life anymore. I don't recognize me anymore. I've destroyed everything I loved, and for what? For someone who didn't care about me at all. I hate myself for what I did. I hate him for playing me. And I hate that no matter how much I want to fix things, it's too late. I've imploded my entire marriage, my family for nothing. I don't know what's next. I feel like I'm just going through the motions right now, waiting for the next blow to knock me down again. I'm completely lost. I don't know if I'll ever be able to make this right. Update. Hey Reddit. So, yeah, I've read the comments, and a lot of them were super negative. I mean, I expected it, but still, it's like everyone just jumps on the "you're a cheater and cheaters are bad" bandwagon without even thinking for a second that there's a reason why I cheated. Like, do people think I did this for fun? That I just woke up one day and thought, hey, I'll destroy my marriage today? I mean, seriously, thanks for nothing. It's not like I wanted to blow up my life, but here we are. Anyway, a lot of you said I should go ahead and tell Matt's girlfriend about what happened. So, that's what I did. I know some of you probably think it's petty or pointless, but at this point, I feel like I have nothing left to lose. If she's engaged to that piece of trash, she deserves to know what she's signing up for. Maybe I'm still bitter. Maybe I just wanted him to hurt the way I've been hurting. But whatever the reason, I went ahead and found her on Facebook. Wasn't even hard, honestly. And guess what? Turns out they're engaged. Yep, her relationship status is literally engaged to fucking Matt. Can you believe it? The same guy who was so kind and caring to me and then turned around and told me I was just a game to him. The same guy who acted like we were just messing around. He's engaged. I mean, the whole thing is so fucked up. So, yeah, I sent her a message. I sent her everything. Screenshots of our messages, pictures, all the evidence. I laid it all out there for her. It's been almost a day now and I haven't gotten a response. Maybe she doesn't use the account anymore, or maybe she's seen it and just doesn't want to deal with it. I don't know. She seems pretty active on Facebook though, so I feel like she's probably seen it by now. But who knows? At the end of the day, I've done my part. I've put it all out there, and now it's up to her to decide what to do with it. Maybe she'll leave him. Maybe she won't. That's not my problem anymore. I'm just trying to deal with the mess that I've created in my own life, and this was just one more thing I felt like I had to do to clean up some of the wreckage. So, yeah, that's where things stand. Update. Hello, everyone. So, I did finally get a response from Matt's girlfriend, a whole week later. Honestly, I didn't expect to hear back at all after a few days passed, so when her message came through, it caught me off guard. It wasn't long or dramatic or anything like that. She just asked for clarification, obviously in disbelief. I mean, I get it. I'd be in shock too. Imagine finding out that the person you're engaged to has been screwing around behind your back. It's the same gut punch Jack must have felt when he found out about my affair. She thanked me for telling her. I could tell she was still processing everything, but she was calm. I don't know if that's better or worse, but it made me wonder what she was really thinking. The whole thing just felt surreal, like I had just handed over the destruction of her life on a silver platter. And of course, after that, it didn't take long for the shitstorm to hit. A couple of days later, I started getting these horrible, hurtful messages from an unknown number. At first, I didn't know who it was, but it wasn't long before I figured it out. It was Matt, the sweet, charming Matt I had fallen for, the one who had made me feel so wanted, so seen, was now sending me texts that were straight up vicious. He called me a hoe, blamed me for opening my legs for him, and basically unloaded all the guilt and shame that he should have been feeling onto me. You know what? As messed up as it sounds, a part of me was pleased. Pleased that he was pissed off, that I had rattled his little perfect life. He thought he could just waltz through this without consequences, without anyone finding out, without his fiancée knowing what a lying, cheating asshole he is. Well, not anymore. I guess it's true what they say. People show you who they really are when they no longer need you. If someone had told me a few months ago that Matt, of all people, would be the one calling me all these disgusting names, I wouldn't have believed them. I would have defended him. I would have said he wasn't like that. But here we are. He accused me of trying to ruin his relationship. Good. I'm glad I did. His fiancée doesn't deserve to be stuck with someone like him. And I won't lie, there's a dark satisfaction in knowing that I had a hand in taking him down a peg. As for me, though, I've been like a mindless zombie ever since all this blew up. My days are just this numb haze. I try to keep up appearances for the kids, spend time with them, be present, but it's hard. They deserve better than this mess. And then there's work. I'm barely keeping it together there. I go in, do the minimum to keep from getting fired, and then clock out. It's like I'm just going through the motions, one foot in front of the other, trying to avoid drowning in my own misery. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I'll ever feel normal again. All I know is that right now, everything feels so damn empty. Update. Hey, Reddit. So sorry I haven't updated in a while. Life's been a roller coaster, and I've been trying to pick up the pieces of everything that fell apart. That's why I've been quiet. It's been a few months since everything blew up, and here's the lowdown on what's gone down. First off, the divorce is finalized, and wow, it was brutal. My parents ended up paying for a lawyer, which I'm grateful for because I definitely couldn't afford one on my own. Going into it, I had agreed with Jack to give him custody of the kids. My lawyer said that was the best route because my chances of getting custody were basically non-existent. In my state, cheating pretty much guarantees the kids go to the other parent. It's like an automatic strike against you. Cheating also screwed me out of a lot of money. The financial support I was expecting? Yeah, let's just say it was laughably low. Like, why even bother low? It stings because I'm still expected to pay child support, which just adds to the pile of financial stress. And get this, no claims to the house or any of Jack's other assets. Turns out most of it he bought before we got married, or it was just in his name. It's ironic because we lived in this majestic house, the kind of place people dream about. Now, not even a tiny piece of it is mine. All I got to keep was my car, which is something, I guess. But let's be real. It's nothing compared to everything else I've lost. So Jack has full custody of the kids. That's the part that hits the hardest. It's not like I didn't see it coming, but still, it's gut-wrenching to not even have a claim to my own children. I see them during visits, but it's not the same. It's like my life has been split in half. I did this to myself, though, so I try not to wallow too much in the unfairness of it all. I keep reminding myself that these are the consequences I have to live with. I wasn't okay for a long time after the divorce, and if I'm being honest, I'm still not. Regret is a constant companion. If I could turn back time, I wouldn't just sit on my feelings and pretend everything was fine with Jack. I would have talked to him, worked on our marriage instead of seeking comfort elsewhere. But there's no undoing any of it now. All I can do is try to live with it. I'm still at my parents' house, which is a whole other level of humbling. I never thought I'd end up back here in my 30s, but I'm trying to save up enough to move out on my own again. It's slow going, though. Financially, things are really tight, and it's hard to imagine getting back to the life I had before all of this. That life feels like a dream now, being the wife of a successful man, living in a beautiful home, having everything look picture perfect on the outside. Now I'm just here, in my parents' house, trying to get through each day, trying not to feel like a complete failure. Oh, and here's a small win. Matt's girlfriend did end up leaving him. She reached out to me a while after I exposed everything, and it turns out she dumped his ass. Honestly, I'm glad. If anyone deserves a shitty ending, it's him. Sure, I made my own mistakes, but Matt isn't walking away from this scot-free. He played his part in all of this, and I hope he's paying for it too. I'm not some naive fool anymore thinking he actually cared. He didn't. And now at least she knows who she was really with. So yeah, that's where I'm at. The past few months have been rough, to put it mildly. I'm just trying to survive, trying to exist in this new reality I've created for myself. It's insane how quickly everything unraveled. One minute I was living this life that, from the outside, looked perfect. Successful husband, beautiful home, healthy, beautiful kids, all of it. Now I'm just scraping by, back at square one, with a future that feels uncertain at best. This is definitely not what I envisioned for myself, not in a million years. But it's the bed I made, and now I have to lie in it. I'm trying day by day to pick up the pieces, but man, it's hard. It's really, really hard.